Now in this question we have been given an olivine series of mineral consists of crystals in which iron and magnesium ions may substitute for each other, causing substitutional impurity defect without changing volume of the unit cell. Now here you can see that we are talking about solid state, and in this case you have been given olivine series of minerals. Now whether you know what are they or you do not know, it does not matter. So you have to see what are the given conditions. For example, here we have been given that iron and magnesium may substitute for each other. Second thing is that in this case the olivine series of mineral oxide ions exist as FCC. So here oxide ions, that is O2 minus, is present in FCC, that is at corners and face centers, and we know the contribution at corners and face center is basically 4 in total, 1 from corner and 3 from face centers. And this Si4 plus occupy 1/4 of octahedral voids. Now total octahedral void present in a unit cell in a FCC lattice is basically 4. And if I am saying I have 1/4 of 4, it means I have effective 1 atom of or 1 ion of Si4 plus. Then divalent cation occupying 1/4 of the tetrahedral void. Whatever with my divalent cation, for example, it can be ferrous ion or magnesium ion, they are basically occupying 1/4 of the tetrahedral void. Now we know that tetrahedral voids are basically present, that is 8 in number. But we need 1/4, it means the total number of divalent cation is 2 in the compound. I will show you later also. And here the density of forsterite, that is magnesium silicate, is 3.56 gram per cc, and that of feolite is 5.19 gram per cc, that is ferrous silicate, in which the divalent cation is ferrous ion, whereas in forsterite is magnesium 2 plus ion. Then choose the correct statement if the density of olivine is 4.78 gram per cc. Now here there is a possibility that we have both types of cations in my crystal, that is ferrous ion as well as magnesium ion. Now we have to see that what is the correct composition when the density of olivine is 4.78. Now we will start from the very beginning, where we have been given that we have an FCC lattice, and we know that in FCC lattice the lattice is formed by oxide ion, and this oxide ion is present at corners, and from corners the contribution is 1, that is 8 into 1/8, and from face centers the contribution is overall 6. Faces are present, half is the contribution, so total 3. So total oxide ions in my lattice is 4, and the total negative charge is 8, that is 4 into 2 minus. And then it has been given to us that octahedral void occupy 1/4, that whatever be the total octahedral voids, Si4 plus is basically occupying 1/4 of the octahedral void. It means 1/4 of 4 is basically 1, it means 1 Si4 plus ion is present in a unit cell. Similarly, the divalent ion, whatever be my M2 plus, it is basically occupying 1/4 of tetrahedral void. Total tetrahedral void is 8. So basically divalent ions are 2 in number. And from that I can say one thing. For example, in forsterite we have magnesium ion. Now in forsterite we have magnesium ion, so the number of magnesium ion, that is the divalent ion, is 2, silicon is 1, and oxide we know it is overall 4 in number. So formula becomes Mg2SiO4. So from here I can say one thing, that my third statement or the C is correct. Similarly, feolite is basically ferrous ion crystal, and in this way you can see that here it should be Fe2SiO4, but here it is given that it is FeSiO3, so this is incorrect. Now what we have to do is we have to determine the percentage of forsterite in olivine is 50%, percentage of Phyllite in olivine is 75%. Now this we have to do by looking at the densities. For example, the density of forsterite is 3.56. So forsterite density is 3.56 gram per cc, whereas that of Phyllite, it is given as 5.19 gram per cc, and density of olivine is given as 4.78 gram per cc. Now how to connect these three? So first let's see what is the equation for the density of forsterite. Now if I want to write the equation for density of forsterite, I can say in forsterite we have magnesium ion, and the composition is we have 2 magnesium ions there. What is the mass of magnesium ion? We know the mass of magnesium ion is 24. The formula of density is Zm upon Na A cube, and it has been given to us that the volume is not changing. If the volume is not changing, we can assume that this A cube remains constant, as well as this Na remains constant, because this is the Avogadro number. So what is changing is Z and M in my compound. But again, if I have 1 tetravalent ion and 4 oxide ion, it means my Z also remains same, only the mass is changing for density. Now density is basically for forsterite is, what is the mass of forsterite? That is 24 into 2 plus, what is the mass of silicon? That is 28 plus the mass of oxide ion is 16, and we have 4 oxide ions. It becomes 64 in number into Z divided by Na A cube, and this comes out as, what we have here is 3.56. 3.56. Now after that, what we have to do is we have to calculate density of Phyllite, and that is mass of ferrous ion. Now ferrous ion is 56 into 2 plus 28 plus 64 into 1 divided by Na A cube is equal to 4.78. Now moving on to the density of olivine. So in density of olivine, let's assume that we have X ion, that the total contribution of divalent ion is 2. Let's say that X is contribution from my magnesium ion, and 2 minus X is the contribution from Fe2 plus, and from here we can calculate the percentage at the later stage. So here I am assuming X is Mg2 plus and 2 minus X is Fe2 plus. So here I will write the density for this olivine, that is 24 into X plus 2 minus X into 56 plus the mass of silicon is 28 plus 64 divided by volume remains same, and here we have 5.19. Now this is the density of my olivine. Now if I am going to relate my first equation and my second equation, because we do not need to look at this equation, because we have this variable and this variable, so 2 equations are sufficient. And if I relate these two, that is forsterite and this, I will get 204 minus 32x is equal to 188. You have to relate these two equations. You have to substitute the value of Na A cube from this first equation, and from there we get this one, and this is equal to 32x is equal to, here we will get 16, and from here x equal to half. Now if my x equal to half, 2 minus x becomes 3 by 2. It means if I have 2 part, then 1/4 part is basically from magnesium ion and 3/4 part is basically from ferrous ion. It means the percentage of phthalate is 75%, whereas the percentage of forsterite is 25%. Now, if we look at the options, then percentage of forsterite in olivine is 50%. No, this is incorrect. Percentage of phthalate in olivine is 75%. Yes, this is the correct answer. Now, moving on to my next question. Now, here in this question, we have been given an optically active compound A of molecular formula C5H10O. Now, the formula is C5H10O. If I ask you what is the DBE of this compound, because I have told you earlier also, whenever we have the series of reaction A giving B, giving C and D, first thing is to determine the DBE of your unknown compound. So, from here I can say my DBE is 1. Gives silver mirror test. Now, this compound gives silver mirror test, so there is a possibility it can be any aldehyde because it cannot be an alkyne. Here the DBE is 1, and for alkyne the DBE must be greater than or equal to 2. Now, after that, compound A on reaction with aluminium alkoxide, that is aluminium ethoxide, gives another optically active compound B of molecular formula C10H20O2. Now, here you can see that number of carbon atoms become double. It means that the two groups are combining, and from the reagent you can predict that what is this reaction. This reaction is basically Tishenko reaction. So, for advanced point of view, that reaction is very important. Then after that, what is happening is hydrolysis of B in presence of H3O plus gives two optically active compounds of molecular formula. Then again, on hydrolysis, we are going to break the compound into two compounds C and D. Both are having 5 carbon atoms. One is having only single oxygen and the other is having 2 oxygen atoms. Also, the DBE of this compound is 0, whereas the DBE of this compound is 1. Now, silver salt of D on reaction with bromine this gives optically active compound E of molecular formula C4H9Br. Again, in this compound the DBE is 0. It means we are getting an alkyl halide and we are having silver salt of D here. Now, silver salt reacts with bromine. You know this reaction, what is happening here is we are having Hunsdijker reaction. So, from the silver salt we will get C4H9Br. It means this compound contains a carboxylic group. Now, after that, identify the correct compounds and their characteristics. So, first thing is we are going to write each and every reaction. So, let us start with A. Now, A contains 5 carbon, 10 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen, and as I have told you, the DBE here is 1. Now, this is giving positive silver mirror test, and if it is giving positive silver mirror test, it can be aldehyde because you can see from here that we are having 1 oxygen and 1 DBE, and for Tishenko we need aldehydic group. So, yes, there is a possibility that A is an aldehydic group. So, let us say we have a 5 carbon aldehyde, but now the thing is, what is the structure of this? Is it a straight chain or branched? Now, here it has been given to us that compound A is basically optically active, because this thing is very important. Whatever be the compound forming in this reaction, whether it is A that is given to us, B, C and D, all are optically active, and as A is optically active, it cannot be straight chain. So, I have formed a 4 carbon chain compound. I am putting a carbonyl group here. Now, we have 1 methyl group. There is a possibility I can put methyl here or here. If I put methyl here, then my compound becomes optically inactive. But if I put methyl here, so this is CH3, CH2, CH, CH3. So, this is the one possibility where it is optically active. Can we form another compound which is optically active having aldehydic group? No. If we make a 3 carbon chain and try to put 2 methyl groups, then also it becomes optically inactive. So, A is this compound which gives a positive silver mirror test. Now this A is basically reacting with my this CH3, CH2, CH3. This is the chiral center. CHO is reacting with aluminium oxide. And after reaction, what happens that it undergoes Tishenko reaction. So ester will be formed here, and the molecular structure of this ester is CH3, CH2, CH, CH3. This is the chiral center CO, OC, H2, CH. This is CH3, C2H5. So we have this compound. So if I enlarged it, how does it look like? If I draw the carbon skeleton, 2 carbons, third carbon, a methyl group here. We have COO, C, 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 and these two are the chiral centers. Okay, and there is no symmetry in the compound. Now after that, what we are going to do is we are doing the hydrolysis of this product. On doing hydrolysis, you know, ester on hydrolysis gives acid and alcohol. So we get one acid, that is this part will give the acid and this part will give us alcohol. So this is our OH. And here also we have 2 chiral centers. It means compound C and D are also optically active. That has been the condition and that has been provided to us. Now, why I am taking this as D? Because here it has been shown that D is having molecular formula C5H10O2 having 1 dBe. So carboxylic group is having 1 dBe and 2 oxygen atoms. And now silver salt of D on reaction with bromine CCl4 gives optically active compound E. Now doing the final reaction, that if I take a silver salt of CH3, CH2, CH, CH3, COOAg reacts it with Br2 in presence of CCl4, then what we get is 1 carbon less compound, that is CH3, CH2, CH, CH3, Br, that is 4 carbon containing alkyl halide. Now again this compound is also optically active, that is my E. Now let's see the options what they are asking. So the first option is compound A is CH3, CH2, CH, CH3, CHO. Is this a statement correct? Yes, this is a correct statement. Compound B has 2 pair of enantiomers. So you can see compound B is the ester compound, and in ester we have these 2 chiral centers, and as symmetry is missing here, so we get 2 pair of enantiomers in this compound. Then compound C is CH3, CHOH, CH, CH3 twice. No, we do not get any such compound. And finally compound E is CH3, CH2, CH, CH3, Br. Yes, this one is the E compound. So here my answer is A, B and D. Now moving on to my next question. Now let's discuss question number 27. Now in question 27 it has been given, in acidic conditions at pH 3, benzyl penicillin undergoes the following parallel reactions. Now here you can see that you have been given certain organic compounds, but you can see here that you have been given certain rate constant, and this is basically a parallel reaction in which your benzyl penicillin is forming P1, P2 and P3 product. Now if you see closely, that the rate of formation of this P1, P2 and P3 is basically first order kinetics. Why I am saying it is first order kinetics? Because you can see that the rate constant is having unit second inverse, and from the unit of rate constant I can determine that this is my first order kinetics reaction. And you have read about it that whenever we are having a parallel reactions, let's say I have a compound A which is forming B and C, and the rate constant for the formation of B and C, let's say K1 and K2, and these two are also first order kinetics reaction. Then if I want to calculate the yield of B and C at any instant, then I can say one thing, that the ratio of yield of B or the amount of B to the amount of C at any instant is always the ratio of K1 and K2. And from this understanding we will calculate or we will solve this problem. Now here we have three products, that is P1, P2, P3, and the rate constants are given. Here my rate constant is 7 into 10 to the minus 4, it is 4.1 into 10 to the minus 3, this is 5.7 into 10 to the power minus 3. So this is having a different value or a different power, so we will convert it into 0.7 into 10 to the power minus 3. Now if I want to calculate the percentage yield or the yield of products at pH 3, then I can write that percentage yield of P1, this is basically equal to the rate constant for the formation of P1 divided by the overall rate constant, that is K1 plus K2 plus K3, because it is basically the amount of P1 upon the total amount, and we know that ratio remains proportional to the ratio of rate constants. And here we want to know percentage yield, so we have to multiply it by 100. Now the value of K1 here is 0.7 into 10 to the power minus 3. This is 0.7 into 10 to the power minus 3 divided by 0.7 into 10 to the power minus 3 plus the other two values are 5.7 and 4.1. This is 5.7 plus 4.1 into 10 to the power minus 3, and this is into 100. Now if we calculate this, then the value that we obtained is 6.67%. So the P1 from the calculation of this is 6.67%. Similarly, if I want to calculate the percentage yield of P2, now if you see here, the rate constant for the formation of P2 is 5.7 into 10 to the power minus 3. This is 5.7 into 10 to the power minus 3 divided by 0.7 into 10 to the power minus 3 plus 5.7 into 10 to the power minus 3 plus 4.1 into 10 to the power minus 3. Okay. And this is into 100 for the percentage calculation, and if we do the calculation here, what we obtain is the 54.28%. And if I am going to check with my options, then the options that is correctly matching is P1 54.29%, no, this is not the option. P2 is 39%, no, this is incorrect. Last option is correct, that is P2 is equals to 54.28. Here we do not have to calculate the percentage for P3, but if you want to calculate, you can simply add these two and subtract it from 100. So the answer of this question is A and D.